Good morning, traders, and welcome to NewsWare's Trade Talk for Friday, November 21st. Okay, let's get into the action. Take a look at the S&Ps. We're up 0.35% this morning. This is actually positive because earlier this morning we were lower. In fact, we were lower all morning. It only started to turn around like 7 o'clock, 7:30 around there this morning. Now we're showing a nice gain on the day, so that's a positive way. The markets still continue to reset expectations on the AI sector. I mean, you got to remember, big tech firms like Google and that Gemini announcement, that's really started taking away from the momentum that has been developing with, firms like OpenAI and related firms, Anthropic and places like that. So, Google just caught up. And remember, they're a major player. They get all the traffic. OpenAI doesn't get half the traffic that Google does. Key economic event for today, hey, that consumer sentiment report that's coming out after the bell, that's going to be highly watched. Crypto remains negative, and they've fallen back to the lowest levels since April. Trump officials are preparing for a potential cabinet shakeup. Looking at possible changes, Homeland Security, Defense Department, National Intelligence Community, these are all positions that could change. We'll have to wait and see. But this is kind of towards the end of the year, towards the end of his first term, they're going to want to make that change. What else do we have? Oh, that peace plan, the Ukraine-Russia peace plan. It's creating some geopolitical concerns this morning. It's perceived as being structured to reward Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. It's already being rejected by, some European unions. I shouldn't say rejected. They're rejecting certain parts of the peace plan, EU officials and Ukraine officials said. What else do we have? Oh, remember how the banks are doing that major bailout? The major banks are doing a bailout of Argentina. Well, they're shelving that. Nobody wants to get involved in that because there's not enough collateral. There's not enough assets there to kind of make sure that they're going to get paid back. These banks aren't in the business of giving away money. One of the positive things causing this market to spur higher this morning, is that New York Fed Bank President John Williams, he came out this morning and he indicated that there is room for more interest rate cuts. I got to tell you, that's breathing a sigh of relief into the markets this morning. On the earnings front, you got Intuit, Ross Stores, Gap, and BJ. They're all trading higher after earnings reports. Ticker VEEV and ESTC, they're lower, but they had good reports. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some change in direction there. But next week is a big week for the retailers. We got a host of retailers reporting earnings. I'm talking, Kohl's, KSF, Abercrombie & Fitch, A&F, Smucker Jam, SJM, Best Buy, BBY, Dick's Sporting Goods, DKS, Burlington, BURL, and Urban Outfitters, URBN. They're all reporting next week. Okay, let's take a peek and see what's going on over in Europe this morning. And the action is lower. But they're way off their earlier lows that they saw this morning. The DAX, for example, is down 0.39%, or like 93 points. It was down, 200 points. So, that's positive. The flash PMI data in Germany for November showed some, continuing weakness in manufacturing. The slowdown in services, not great, but they're pulling back a little bit. We're looking at the FTSE. The FTSE's only down 0.12%. That's kind of, positive considering it was down like, almost 0.4% earlier this morning. We saw weakness in banks and mining shares. In France, the CAC is down 0.04%. That's 3 points. It was down low, close to 0.3%. It was down 0.3%, but now it's only down 0.04%. The flash PMI data pointed to stabilization. The broader tech sell-off and geopolitical concerns are still lingering in these European markets, so we got to be a little cautious there. Okay, now we're taking a look over at Asia, and Asia was, mostly red. We had the Nikkei drop 2.4%. It's about the economy and the fiscal health of Japan. The cabinet approved $135 billion stimulus package, and then you have the core inflation, which ticked higher yesterday. So that's not positive. Hong Kong, on the other hand, they fell 2.38%. That's 615 points. Tech, property, consumer stocks led that move lower. And in China was down 2.45% with broad weakness, especially in the tech sector. Turning over to oil. Oil is rebounding. I mean, it's still down. I mean, you got WTI trading down almost 1%. It's trading at $58.42 a barrel, whereas in Brent's at $62.90 a barrel. You have a couple of issues here. Number one is the sanctions on Russian oil are set to take effect today. That normally would be bullish for oil prices, but with this peace plan out there, that's really causing oil prices to push back, because this peace plan would allow would likely allow Russian oil to start being resold. So everybody's betting on the peace plan right now, and that's why you're seeing the weakness in Russian oil. Okay, moving on to earnings. I mean, last night we had a bunch of earnings come out. Two of the ones I was watching, ESTC, Elvis, Sam, Tom, Charlie, Elastic, they beat by 6 cents. They did that on higher revenue, and their guidance was good, but not good enough. I mean, the stock is getting hit this morning. It's trading, down about 10%. Viva Systems, that's ticker VEEV, Victor Edward Apple. They beat by 9 cents. They did it on higher revenue. But you look at the stock this morning and it's down 6.21%. So that negativity in terms of the tech sector is still there. Then we're turning about upcoming reports. Listen, it's all about the retailers next week. Kohl's, Abercrombie & Fitch, Smucker Jams, Best Buy, Dick's Sporting Goods, Burlington stores, and Urban Outfitters are all scheduled to report next week. In terms of economic reports coming out this morning, you got the PMI flash reports coming out at 9:45. 10 a.m. you got the consumer sentiment, and 1 p.m. you got the Baker Hughes rig count. In terms of upcoming Fed speak, 8:30 we're going to hear from Fed Governor Michael Barr. 9 o'clock we're going to hear from Dallas Fed Bank President Lori Logan, and then also at 9 we're going to hear from Boston Fed Bank President Susan Collins. They're all due to speak. And let's talk about yesterday for a second with that non-farmers payroll report showing an increase of 119,000 jobs. That was more than double the expectations of 50,000 jobs. Which is reflects stronger labor market gains despite the government shutdown. We're not going to have an October report. Some of that data is going to be included in the November report, but that November report is not going to come out until after the Fed meeting. So this is the last employment reading we're going to get before that Fed meeting. And it was rather, you can't. It's hard to come out there and claim labor market weakness when you have a number like that. But I will have to say that unemployment rate did rise to 4.4%. Okay, let's move on and let's take a look at the stocks that are moving the markets this morning. First, we're looking at the markets, and I got 4 Dow stocks lower. The rest are higher. 26 higher, 4 lower. I'm looking at my FANG stocks. Little weakness in Netflix and Apple, but everything else is trading higher this morning. So that's all positive. We're looking at news behind the tape, and we're looking at Amazon. They completed their $15 billion debt offering across 6 note series. They get the money to pay it back. Not a big deal. Google, Italy closes its probe over unfair use of personal data. That's positive. Meta Platforms agrees to pay a $190 million settlement in shareholder user privacy case. Netflix, it's all about this Paramount, Skydance, Comcast, and Netflix. They're all submitting bids for Warner Brothers Discovery. They're all due today. I think at the end that's going to be positive for Netflix. We're talking Dow Jones 30 stocks. We're talking NVIDIA, NVDA. The Department of Energy is accelerating its approach to add AI supercomputers to its labs. Nice. Microsoft C3 AI has expanded and deepened its native integrations with Microsoft Copilot. JP Morgan, along with other big banks, are taking a step back on that Argentina bailout. In terms of guidance news, ESTC, they came out there and they say for the full year 2026, they expect the EPS to come in 240 to 246. Street estimate is 235, so that's a nice uptick. Viva Systems, VEV, They see 2026 adjusted EPS coming in 793 to 778. They coming in at 793. Now the consensus there is 781. I mean, if the consensus is 781 and they just came out and think it's going to be 793, that again is a big uptick. Viva Systems, not bad. But that's really what I have for you about news hitting the tape this morning. In terms of a pick for today, you know what? I got to go with Netflix, NFLX. I mean, listen, I think it's weak. I think the news is all about Peace Guy and, the potential buyout. I don't think Netflix is going to win. I don't think Netflix really wants to win. If they did, it would be positive, but I don't think they're going to win. And, if they win, I think it would be positive. Even if they lost, it's still positive because that's not their core business. But you look at the call volume yesterday, in a very negative day, you had 309,000 calls versus 295 puts. That's positive. Open interest is flat, 3.4 million to 3.4 million calls to puts. But I do think we're going to see some positive action in Netflix today. Brokers, they're still positive on the stock. But, my entry price, I want to get in under 105. I want to get in at 104.75-ish. We'll have to wait and see if that's possible. But that's my pick of the day. Netflix, 104.75. Okay, now let's take a look at the news hitting the tape this morning to see what's happening. U.S. draft framework established conditions for an armistice between Ukraine and Russia. It's not being received well. Bitcoin dives again. Worst week in 3 years. Remember, there's no assets behind crypto. The Kremlin says Russia and the U.S. are not discussing the U.S. proposal yet in detail. Okay, but that doesn't mean you haven't discussed it. Just say you haven't discussed it in detail. Question. President Trump's going to be meeting with the mayor-elect Mandani today. I don't think anything's going to come of this. They're not going to be holding hands. That's for sure. Gap's trading higher after earnings. GE Healthcare to acquire Interlad for $2.3 billion in cash. Trump interested in taking additional action against cartels. Fed Gooseby came out yesterday and said that mortgage rates could make that a 50-year mortgage rate could make monetary policy decisions have less impact. That's possible. Texas Attorney General is suing Bristol Myers and Santa Fe for alleged failure to disclose the effectiveness of Plavix. MGM, they're going to be hosting the Las Vegas Grand Prix this weekend, and Target is said to be doing these in-store toy demonstrations starting tomorrow, in a real attempt to get people into stores to help boost holiday sales. Google's going to make its final plea to avoid a breakup of its advertising business in a U.S. court. Foxconn said that $1.4 billion supercomputing center it is building with NVIDIA will be ready in the first half of 2026. That's all I'm seeing this morning. Okay, let's talk about yesterday's pick of the day, which is Elastic, ESTC, Alva, Sam, Tom, Charlie. I mean, listen, you followed the model, it did work out. I mean, the stock opened up at $89.13, and then it ran to $91.09. There's your 1%. But after the earnings, even though they did beat, even though they did raise revenue, on higher revenue, and even though they did raise guidance, the stock started to tumble along with the rest of the tech sector. But, that 1% was there in the morning. And I just want to say that NetEase yesterday wound up working out because I waited it. I didn't sell. I was holding on to it. And yesterday after the open, it popped. And, I got like a 2.5% gain on it. So NetEase, it turned out to be good for me. But that's concludes the show for today. Watch out. It's going to be a lot of volatility. We've got a holiday week coming up. As always, there's always an unusual event that happens the day after Thanksgiving. So it's worthwhile to pay attention to the markets on Friday. But guys, you know what to do. Let's go out there and let's make some green.